Hello and welcome back to the Dusty Codex. Ancient Athens, the birthplace of democracy. A radical experiment where citizens directly participated in governing their city, debating laws and deciding the fate of their state. But how do you protect such a system from its own success? What happens when a leader, even a popular one, accumulates too much power? We are always curious to know where our stories are traveling to, and where your corner of the world is. Please, take a moment to let us know in the comments where you are watching from today. This is the story of ostracism, a unique and radical tool wielded by the citizens of ancient Athens. If a politician became too popular, too influential, or simply too much of a threat to the delicate balance of their democracy, the Athenians had a failsafe. They could literally vote to banish them. Not for a crime, not for treason, but for becoming too powerful. If you won this vote, you were exiled from the city for 10 years. This fascinating and brutal democratic practice shaped the political landscape of ancient Athens. A simple shard of pottery, an Ostrakon, could decide the fate of the greatest statesman. It was a brilliant, if harsh tool designed to protect their precious democracy from the rise of tyrants. Ostracism was introduced by Cleisthenes around 508 BC as part of his sweeping democratic reforms. Athens had a painful history of tyranny, particularly under the Pisistratids. The Athenians remembered what it was like to live under a single, all-powerful ruler. They were deeply suspicious of anyone who accumulated too much wealth, influence, or military prestige, fearing they might try to seize absolute power. Cleisthenes' reforms aimed to empower the common citizen and decentralize power. Ostracism was conceived as a safety valve, a bloodless way to neutralize a potential threat without resorting to violence or civil war. The word ostracism comes directly from Ostrakon, the Greek word for a pottery shard or tile. When a potter broke a pot, the pieces weren't discarded. They became the ballots of Athenian democracy. The process began once a year, during the 6th Prytany, roughly January-February. The assembly would be asked, "Do you wish to hold an ostracism?" It wasn't about who to ostracize yet, just if the state needed one. If the assembly voted yes, then 2 months later, the ostracism would take place. On the designated day, citizens would gather in the agora, in a specially roped-off enclosure. Every eligible male citizen, usually over 18, would be given an Ostrakon. They would then scratch or inscribe the name of the individual they wished to see exiled. The act of writing the name was deeply personal. It wasn't a party vote, it was an individual decision about who they believed posed the greatest risk to the Republic. Once all the votes were cast, officials would meticulously count them. The person whose name appeared on the most ostraca would be ostracized. But there was a crucial threshold. At least 6,000 votes had to be cast against one individual for the ostracism to be valid. This prevented frivolous or malicious banishments by a small faction. If no one received 6,000 votes, no one was ostracized. If a person was ostracized, they had 10 days to settle their affairs. They were then exiled for 10 years. They didn't lose their property or citizenship, but they could not return to Athens during that decade. It was a political sabbatical, enforced by popular will. One of the first famous victims of ostracism was Aristides, known as the Just. He was renowned for his integrity and honesty, yet he was exiled in 482 BC. Plutarch tells a famous anecdote. An illiterate citizen asked Aristides himself to write Aristides on his Ostrakon. When asked why, the citizen replied he just didn't like hearing him called the Just all the time. Aristides wrote his own name and was banished. Perhaps the most dramatic ostracism was that of Themistocles in 470 BC. He was the hero of the Battle of Salamis, the architect of Athenian naval power. But his ambition and his perceived arrogance, combined with accusations of corruption, made him too dangerous in the eyes of the Athenians. The man who saved Greece was banished. Ostracism was a double-edged sword. It could remove a genuine threat, or it could simply be used to settle political scores. It forced leaders to constantly prove their loyalty to the police, city-state, not just their faction. It was a stark reminder that in Athenian democracy, no individual was above the collective will of the citizens, not even the most brilliant or the most just. If these stories, where the ideals and realities of ancient societies clash in fascinating ways, are what you seek, I invite you to subscribe to the Dusty Codex. Your support allows us to continue unearthing these vital, often forgotten pieces of human history. While initially intended as a failsafe, ostracism was not immune to political manipulation. Rival factions could conspire to ensure that their opponent was the one exiled. For example, in 444 BC, there was a famous ostracism between Pericles and his main political rival, Thucydides, son of Milesius, not the historian. The votes were so evenly split that it became a direct test of strength between their factions. Pericles' side won, and Thucydides was ostracized. The final known ostracism involved a minor demagogue named Hyperbolus in 417 BC. His banishment was widely considered to be an abuse of the system. Two powerful politicians, Nycteas and Alcibiades, were rivals, but instead of letting one of them be ostracized, they allegedly conspired. They convinced their followers to cast their votes against the less influential Hyperbolus. The Athenians were outraged. The tool, designed to protect the democracy, had been turned into a weapon against a minor figure, used by powerful men to save their own skin. The incident with Hyperbolus discredited the practice. It was seen as having fallen into disrepute, a tool for manipulation rather than protection. After this, ostracism was never used again. The Romans, famously, never adopted such a practice. Their political landscape was far more volatile, often resorting to exile or assassination to remove powerful rivals. In modern democracies, we grapple with similar issues. How to deal with overwhelming political personalities, the influence of money, and the potential for a popular leader to undermine institutions. Archaeological excavations, particularly in the Athenian agora, have unearthed tens of thousands of ostraca, providing tangible evidence of this extraordinary practice. They are physical reminders of a truly unique democratic experiment. Ostracism stands as a testament to the Athenians' radical commitment to their democracy. They were willing to sacrifice their greatest leaders, not for crimes, but simply to preserve the balance of power, demonstrating a profound understanding of the fragility of freedom. It was a failsafe, a warning shot, a simple shard of pottery that protected a dream. Thank you so much for watching this fascinating journey into the depths of ancient Athenian democracy. It's a powerful reminder of how different and yet how relevant the past can be. If you want more stories like this, about the unique customs, political systems, and forgotten practices of the ancient world, you can head on to our playlist to see more. Until next time, stay curious.